Alrighty, everybody. Hopefully, you're all having a fantastic day so far. Let's see, we have in the chat today. Let's see, we have Caleb, Jason, Indiana Proxy, as well as Ethan Phoenix. Let's see, New Plays, Catman, ALT, and everybody else who is in the stream who may just be tuning in, or if you're not chatting, or if I forgot to welcome you, welcome to another live stream. So let's go right ahead and dive on into this. We'll start with our first scene here like we normally do, and then we'll go into coverage a little later once these warnings start to pick up a bit more. So far, only 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, not really anything, you know, over the top. Both of these are just normal, per usual severe storms, nothing too ridiculous with them. It does seem like we did have a notable downtrend with them. It's like our best moisture will actually probably end up being a little bit west of where these thunderstorms will end up firing at. So that's going to be a little bit interesting. But as we go into the later hours tonight, we'll definitely start to see an uptick in significant severe weather, especially as we go on into central and western West Virginia. Definitely going to see a lot of uptick in severe weather. So that strong tornado threat or long track tornado threat we were talking about yesterday, it seems like it downtrended very significantly just simply because of moisture. That's really all it takes. So main threat today will end up being hail and widespread damaging winds, and a couple tornadoes are still going to be possible. There is still an opportunity we get maybe worst case scenario, a strong tornado. Can't be fully ruled out, but that strong tornado threat is significantly lower than originally anticipated, which is why we don't have a 10 significant tor risk today. However, we do actually have a quite notable risk for severe weather. We actually do have a 30% risk for damaging winds now over West Virginia. So you can see that there in the red. Also up into northeastern Kentucky, southeast Ohio, northwestern Virginia. We've got a pretty good sized enhanced risk there for severe weather. Just to see this a little bit better, there you go. You can see it is primarily for West Virginia and Virginia there inside that enhanced risk for severe weather, primarily for damaging winds. Also could see quite a lot of large hail today, potentially even large hail up to about 2.5 inch in diameter. Can't be fully ruled out. And of course, still the same potential, definitely under the risk for tornadoes as we expected. They did expand that 2% and that 5% tornado risk, not only to the south, but also very notably to the west as well. And like I said, they've decided not to include any 10 hatched risk for tornadoes, which I think is a great call with the recent downtrends in moisture. That is definitely a good call to not introduce that 10 sig tornado risk. I do not think tornadoes will be as big of an issue anymore. So that's really good news. Like I said, our main moisture is just not really present. We're not really getting to that good quality moisture, and our temperatures are actually significantly higher than originally expected as well. So definitely more of a hail day and a wind day today, as opposed to like a very notable tornado threat. But we'll still be live here tracking it for quite a while for you guys. So hopefully everybody is going to stay safe out there. Hopefully you're all weather aware. Currently, like I said, only 2 severes, really not much happening. I just want to get on here early so that way we can discuss this threat for severe weather. And of course, we do have the SPC outlook here that will be out in about 9 minutes. I don't expect them to change anything. I really don't think we're going to see much difference between the two outlooks. But right now, the main concern is hail. You can see that from this storm over West Union in Ohio. I swear my camera gets like lower or higher every single day. There you go. See if I fix you guys a little bit. Tiniest bit. It's never in the perfect position there. It's always either a little too left or a little too right or a little too far down or up. It's never perfect. But yeah, we've got a very large hail core over here in Manchester, Ohio, West Union, Ohio. That's on the border of Ohio and Kentucky there. And yeah, we'll continue to monitor that very, very closely to see exactly how large of hail we may be able to see out in this area in southwestern Ohio. So we'll be watching that very closely. Yeah, they could add a 15 hatched hail threat. I do think that's possible. My stream's not lagging at all. That's on y'all's end, not mine. I'm watching it right now, and there's no lag whatsoever on it. So that's on. It's on your end there, Indiana. So, yeah, we also just got a new severe out here for Georgetown in northeastern Kentucky, southwestern Ohio. So make sure you guys are indoors, away from doors and windows. That's the main thing today, is just being away from doors and windows once you're under those severe storms. So just make sure you're taking that precaution there. Again, I don't think tornadoes are going to be a big issue, especially in the short term. Now, we may have a little uptick in tornadic activity as we get into the very late evening and into the night hours, closer to, say, 7, maybe 8 p.m. Eastern time, once those temperatures start to go down a little bit. But definitely in the short term, the main threat by a milestone is definitely going to be large hail. And you see that 5% tornado risk actually begins here. Technically, we've got a severe already in that 5% tornado risk, but I really don't think we're going to see much tornadic activity until we get towards the latter half of our day here. So like I mentioned before, we are going to be getting a new SPC outlook for today's risk. I don't really think we'll see much change here, to be honest with you. If we do get a change, it would be like what someone mentioned in chat there, maybe a 15 sig hail risk there. Yeah, it just looks like our temperatures have climbed way too far up and our dew points are way too low. What I do want to check, though, is I do want to check lapse rates. Go check lapse rates, because that really helps with figuring out if we're going to have a big time hail threat or not. Yeah, lapse rates are really, really solid, especially, I mean, throughout much of the day and even into the evening hours. I really do think we could see some very large hail here across much of this risk area. I don't want to use the HRRR because the HRRR is, it's initiated way too late. It doesn't have any storms firing until almost 7 o'clock, and yeah, we already have 3 storms that have fired, so we know that's not That's not a good model run to use right off the bat. And like I mentioned before, you really want to try to avoid using model runs day of. You want to try to just figure out what ingredients are overperforming, underperforming, what's happening as expected, and see just, do an analysis on your overall day. All right, new SPC outlook is out. I haven't gotten the probabilities just yet. I'm going to turn off my camera for just a second. I want to see if I can fix it a bit better here. Now watch this. It's going to be like way over my head. Yep, not going to get it down a little bit. Way over my head right there. Better? Okay, I like that better. That's better. A little bit better there. Let's see here. Sam, I don't know because it depends. These are very discrete. Honestly, this is quite discrete here. These storms are discrete to clustered, which should allow for better hail growth as opposed to if they were embedded in a line. So if they didn't add it, it wouldn't surprise me. And if they did, it wouldn't surprise me. Hello, Pete. Welcome to the stream. All right, there's a new outlook, and they have not added a hatched hail risk. They have not added a hatched hail risk at the moment. One thing I just noticed on their newest outlook, they actually say a couple of tornadoes are likely. So before they said a couple of tornadoes are possible, but now they're saying a couple tornadoes are likely, which is very odd. The reason why I say that is because this is not a tornado watch. This is not even a good tornado threat, at least from the wording on their watch. But the actual outlook itself makes you kind of think that it is going to be a tornado watch, or possibly even, a good mid-tier tornado watch. But that is not the case. We only have, a 20% out? Yeah, only a 20% chance for 2 or more tornadoes today. So not a notable risk for tornadoes here today. At least according to the watch. But, in their discussion, they have a little bit of a different thought there, saying a couple tornadoes likely. Yeah, minimal changes to the risk area, just some western trims on the edge of the outlook to contribute to the front, obviously, moving through. 1 to 2 inch hail is the biggest issue, damaging wind gusts and a tornado or two. The lack of higher moisture will decrease the overall tornado potential. And also the potential for multiple cell splits, linear mode, and bowing echoes should also keep the tornado threat a little lower. So I think we're looking at just a big hail day out here in West Virginia. Not as notable as a tornado threat as what I was originally talking about. So this is your newest HRRR, and it does now account for storm initiation here happening at this moment. So that's good. At least it fixed itself. That's pretty rare to see from the HRRR. You can see if we go to the old HRRR, it really didn't have much popping up till 8 o'clock tonight. And now on that new HRRR, you could see, if we try to reload that, you could see storms fire here now and over the next hour. So HRRR, a very rare moment where the HRRR actually fixed itself based off of current trends and what's happening. Not very typical the HRRR does that. Normally it just sticks with its 3 hours ahead of time initiation. Or the other way, 3 hours behind, one or the other. Let's go back to our current radar again. So we did just get another severe for Portsmouth and New Boston here in South Central Ohio. I believe that is our most significant severe of the day. Yeah, it is for 1.5 inch hail. So this is almost a significant severe here in the South Central portions of Ohio for, again, Portsmouth. And that's going to head into northern Kentucky as well. And then eventually into West Virginia. So yeah, you could see currently that newest severe actually it is actually still in portions of Kentucky. So take that into account if you do live more downstream of this severe thunderstorm warning, say like York, Ashland, Kentucky, even into Huntington, West Virginia. It looks like this storm is starting to take a little bit more of a southeastward trek here as opposed to like dead east. You can see the previous severe, the first severe they issued on this, it was orientated dead east. Whereas now, that newest severe is orientated more to the southeast, like this. So a little bit more of a southern push with the newest storm trajectory on this storm. Which I don't think that's going to change its hazards, per se, but I do think, obviously, it's going to change exactly where it goes. Also, just briefly talking about our other risks for severe weather here, if we go into the day 3 outlook, which I believe this not for Wednesday. So today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So for Wednesday, they actually haven't introduced a marginal risk or anything greater than that. They have just a general thunderstorm risk. I do think they could eventually upgrade somewhere in this area to a marginal threat, depending on how much confidence we have in storm initiation, which the NAM3K has a storm or two firing in southwestern Kansas out here. But they don't sustain. They're only there for like an hour or two for Wednesday. So I don't think Wednesday will be that big of a threat. Going on into Thursday here, they've really maintained this entire area. I don't think they changed this much. Maybe some very small expansions east and south, but I think that relatively stayed the same. Then Friday's risk, they did exactly what I was talking about before. In yesterday's stream, they did expand it just a bit to the northwest, and I believe just a little bit to the north. They didn't actually take out any of Ohio. I believe they just left the Ohio portion of this risk the same. But they did extend it just a little bit more to the west and to the north, just in case our trough is a little bit quicker. They'll adjust that according to which way things trend. And then going on into... let's see, so that's Friday. This is Saturday. They haven't outlined any risk here on Saturday. That's relatively to be expected. Let's see here. Actually, I got to go back to our model runs to see. Actually, Saturday, for some reason I was thinking it was Sundays that was the main risk. It looks like Saturday has actually trended to become more of the primary threat for severe weather out here in Oklahoma. In Texas, but they haven't outlined a risk yet. I think there's just too much uncertainty on exactly where the greatest threat will set up, but eventually they're most likely going to highlight a risk for severe storms there on your day 6, 7, and probably your day 8 outlook as well, all three of those. Let's see if they mention it. Guidance has shown poor run-to-run consistencies for Saturday and Sunday, yielding in low confidence on this specific outlook cycle. Predictability for a 15% highlight remains too low during the weekend, but areas will probably be needed in later outlooks. Guidance has trended towards a slightly weaker and more confined potential severe threat on Saturday. Overall, the signal persists as a bimodal primary threat for severe weather in the lower mid-Atlantic states in the southern high and Great Plains. Southern mid-Atlantic states on Saturday. What? Where do they see that at? Ooh, okay, I do see some instability up there. So they're talking about, like, maybe northern Virginia, southern Pennsylvania. There's just a bit of instability up there. I didn't notice that before. But yeah, just too much uncertainty to highlight any risk at the moment. After day 6, or after day 5, I should say. We did get a new severe. I think it's this one here, yeah. New severe storm. That's going to be for just south of Portsmouth, Ohio. So actually going into Kentucky here, Flatwood, Kentucky, inside of that new severe for 1-inch hail. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is dropping significantly larger than 1-inch hail. That is a very notable hail core that you see really high DBZ values. A very classic and easy to spot hail spike here. So definitely dropping, in my opinion, greater than 1 inch in diameter hail there. Let's go over to VIL. This was a little bit before. This isn't our newest scan. This was about 10 minutes ago. You can see that is up to almost 80 there, which again, if it's around 80, that means it's correlating with around 2 inch in diameter hail. So probably looking at greater, definitely greater than 1 inch hail, but maybe even greater than 1.5 inch hail here with this storm over, let's see, where is this exactly over? Not a lot of town names over here. I guess just the Shawnee State Forest in south central Ohio there. Yeah, you can see that is a crazy hail spike. My goodness. Crazy hail spike. Wow. So a little surprised we don't have a bit of a higher end severe storm for this one. Let's go back to, I want to go to this radar. I haven't set this radar up. And we're going to put this to the Eastern Kentucky radar site. Another hail spike starting up here in Felicity, southwestern Ohio this time. That's a very notable hail spike there as well. Not as bad as the other one. The reason why I say that is because your DBZ is a lot lower on the Felicity storm as opposed to this storm towards Garrison. But definitely both of these producing large to potentially very large hail in south central Ohio. That is definitely a lot of large hail falling. What's your highest DBZ value? 74 is your highest DBZ value. Last scan may have had a bit of higher DBZ. 76, yes. 76 DBZ. We'll see how high of DBZ we get to today. Looks like our current highest DBZ of the day is going to be 76, which we should be able to get probably quite notably higher than that. But these storms are also over relatively low populated areas. Now, obviously, Portsmouth here, south central, southeastern Ohio, that's one of the more populated areas actually in this risk, at least in front of these storms. But as they head into this area, I mean, you don't have a lot of solid population, which the reason why I mentioned that is not only because that means less impact for people, but that also means significantly less reports. So we're not going to have as much, hail reports as if these were like going over like eastern Oklahoma. And there's also not a lot of chasers out here. I only know two chasers. I only know two chasers that are actually chasing this risk for severe weather out here in Ohio / West Virginia. It's just not good tracing terrain. And not only that, it's not a very notable tornado risk either. Let me go back over to the... I want to look at the newest HRRR just because it is now, it's now initiating storms at the correct time. Yeah, I mean, these are just going to be some very long-tracked hailers. That's what these are going to be. Long-tracked hailers and big-time damaging wind threats. Especially big-time wind threat, especially as they get into eastern West Virginia towards 7 o'clock. About 3 hours from now. Tornado threat? I don't see a very notable tornado threat today. And I mean, that's all it takes is just a little downtrend in moisture and your entire risk for tornadoes has fallen apart. That is literally all it takes. So, yeah, on the newest HRRR here, these updraft helicity tracks, which Twitter would probably call as like a strong tornado threat. At first, it looks like this would be a strong tornado threat, right? If you just use simulated reflectivity, it looks like, man, that is a strong tornado threat with a semi-discrete storm in West Virginia. But yesterday, we didn't have this issue. Now we do. 53 dew points. Remember yesterday we were talking about into the low 60 dew points out in this area. And now it looks like we're into the low 50s for dew points, which that's all just simply because your best moisture is actually going to be west of where these storms are. So your storms are on that pink line moving east, and your best moisture is back out here. If we go back to simulated reflectivity, you can see that that is the case. If we go to your temperatures, and you can see your temperatures are significantly higher than originally thought as well. They're into your high-end 70s, low-end 80s. So even in an area here, like that storm, right? That storm's right on the boundary of best moisture and bad moisture. So that has, we'll say like about 57 dew points. Okay, if we had what temperatures we were forecasting of low 70s out here, this would be a good tornado threat. But our temperatures are actually skyrocketing up into the high 70s and low 80s. So you're looking at a good solid, what is that? That's like a 20-degree temperature dew point spread. That is just not favorable for tornadoes, especially not favorable for strong tornadoes. And I think much of that has to do with the lack of cloud cover. We had like just very spotted cloud cover this morning. Pretty much you could see here nearly clear skies across our main risk area here, with the exception of the northwest extent. If we go into your older model runs here, you can see our older model runs, we're thinking we'd actually have a good amount of cloud cover over West Virginia. And I don't think that happened. We'll go all the way back to 17Z here. Yeah, you could see above my face cam, that is what the satellite looked like at 17Z. So this is what the HRRR thought. A large pocket of clouds all over West Virginia and Kentucky. And then above my face cam, that's what it looked like at 17Z there. And there's just very spotted cloud cover. Not much at all. So that's what's contributed to our higher amount of temperatures. And our dew points, it's probably just something as small as the cold front being a couple miles per hour quicker than originally forecasted. That is causing these dew points to not be as far east as originally expected. But overall, the main issue today is those two things, which are big issues: too high of temperatures and too low of dew points. And those are, that's very major, especially dew points. That's like everything. Low dew points, especially in the low 50s, that's barely sufficient for any tornado threat. We are down to 2 severe storms here. Technically 3 severe warnings. This storm has 2 severe warnings on it. You can see one here. This is one warning. And then this is another warning. So this storm actually has 2 severe warnings on it, which is probably because of jurisdiction, I imagine. Charleston, and then let me guess, probably Cincinnati. Or where, Wilmington. I didn't know where the National Weather Service out here was. Wilmington, Ohio. Let's see that. I want to find that. Wilmington, Ohio. There you go. Okay, so it's like they're literally right on the radar site. Got it. That's where the National Weather Service is. There you go. I didn't know exactly where that was. I guess I could have just simply looked where our radar site was, as opposed to looking that up. I definitely could have just looked for the radar site. There we go. Get rid of this. Yeah. The wind threat and the hail threat's the biggest issue today. That tornado threat is just very, very low now. And I mean, you can have downtrends like that literally overnight. You can have a whole event fall apart. Whole entire event could just fall apart just like that. Taking a look at our newest HRRR, which is slightly more accurate now that it fixed that issue with being too fast. Just the storms overall being a little bit too fast. And you can see our main threat for severe weather today. I mean, we're really looking at pretty much the whole state of West Virginia is under the gun for severe weather today. So this is the main region to watch right in here. That's the main region to watch for severe weather. And look at that. The HRRR portrays a wild bow echo here at 00Z, which is 8 p.m. Eastern time, going towards northwestern Virginia. And that would make its way eventually into Richmond, just south of downtown D.C. there. Downtown Washington, D.C. So that portrays a really solid wind threat. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a mixture of all three modes. Some discrete, some clustered, some linear with a full-on bow echo. A mixture of all three modes. Discrete, clustered, linear. I still think that this is probably dropping larger than a 1-inch hail. West Virginia, like I said, mainly looking at a big-time wind threat and hail threat today. Winds could gust up to 70, 75 in some spots. Hail could be as large as 2 to 2.5 inch in diameter. We're still looking at a couple tornadoes being possible, but the strong tornado threat or the long-track tornado threat that we mentioned briefly yesterday looks extremely unlikely now. We didn't have a lot of cloud cover this morning or this afternoon, which allowed just the sun to continuously heat up the surface, and that allowed for dew points to be very low and temperatures to be extremely high. Now, the main thing with the sun is simply it heated up the surface too much. So your temperatures are 5 to 10 degrees higher than originally forecasted. And your dew points, which again, I don't know the exact reason. My guess would be something to do with the cold front. Your dew points are like 5 degrees lower than we were originally thinking. So we're looking at a big time hail day. And then if we could get a bow echo like this to form, we could be looking at those wind gusts of 70, 75 miles per hour if that did happen tonight. But this is what your radar looks like currently. Some weak thunderstorms here west of Cincinnati, Ohio. Some severe storms here, Georgetown, Ohio, and more specifically, Portsmouth, Ohio, going into Ironton and eventually Ashland in far northeast Kentucky. That's going to be your main storm to watch in the short term and probably for much of the day today, to be honest with you. This should be one of our more long-tracked storms of the day. So that fired way back here in Salem, Scottsburg in southeastern Ohio, and then went severe as it entered the border here of Kentucky and south central Ohio. And that's probably, to be honest with you, that's probably going to survive all the way until it gets towards near Richmond. To be honest with you. Which the newest HRRR, let's see here. Newest HRRR has that surviving all the way until Richmond. All the way until Richmond at 11 o'clock tonight. There's already a report of over 1-inch hail there. Independence in north central Kentucky, 1.25 inch hail. Like I said, once again, we don't have many chasers out here. The chasing terrain is absolutely horrific. So there's not going to be a lot of reports with these storms, especially as they get into western West Virginia. Still have a really good hail spike here. You can really see that from correlation coefficient. That really paints where your big hail spike is. You can see some correlation coefficient. back up in this area, indicating some large hail falling generally in that region. If we look at VIL again, still a little bit behind, but VIL is still right at 80 there, which again, that means like 2-inch hail or right around there being possible. With this storm back in Georgetown, this does have a same VIL of 80, but that doesn't match up too well. That's also further from your radar site too. That's pretty far from your radar site, so I don't think the VIL is very accurate with that. But it definitely shows that there's a hail threat with this storm, for sure. I just don't think that this is dropping 1-inch hail. I think it's dropping significantly larger than 1-inch hail in this area. I mean, that's a very solid hail core there. Again, really good hail spike too. So you're looking at a really large hail threat with that storm. And again, that's going to start heading towards Ashland in northeastern Kentucky. And then here in about an hour or so, yeah, right about an hour or so, this storm will be getting closer to Huntington. In about an hour, it should be over Ashland. Around 5:20 Eastern time, this storm should be over Ashland in northeastern Kentucky, or extremely close to it. Tomorrow is going to be our most inactive day, probably of this entire stretch for severe weather. So that's going to be like the only break opportunity. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to take a break on that day. We'll see. But it just looks like a fire hose of severe weather. Really starting today, but like I said, we have that little break tomorrow. Wednesday's an isolated threat. But really, we're just looking at consistent severe weather being possible for the next couple of weeks. New severe for West Union, still warned for 1-inch hail, which that, I do think that storm's probably producing right around 1-inch hail. Not a really good hail core with that. Not nearly as evident as our hail core out here towards Sunshine in northeastern Kentucky. We're also going to have to switch to the Charleston radar site here. I'm going to get a third radar site open. Not many radars out there today. We got a good radar hole right here. Really good radar hole. Right where these storms currently are. Thankfully, they are not tornadic, so that's fantastic news. We can still get a pretty good idea of how strong the storms are. But if we were talking about tornadic storms, that's when it becomes very, very difficult to tell. Becomes very, very difficult to tell if storms are rotating from this far away. But if you're talking about like hail or damaging winds, it's not nearly as difficult. Velocity is where you start having issues. As you can see there, that's your velocity, the red and green, and it shows just contamination there in Russellville. Whereas on reflectivity, you could still get an idea of, your hail core is really on this side here. You've got some hail. Northern side here, you have some hail. You've got that hail spike that you can also very evidently see. Really, really solid hail spike there as well. But those DBZs are not very high up there. They're at about 70 dBz, which I don't really like correlating dBz with hail, but that's definitely 70 dBz. That's a hail core. The higher dBz you have, the larger an object is there. So if you have a dBz of like 80, then that means there's extremely large hail. Whereas with this storm, we actually got a dBz of 76, which is why I said I was pretty sure it was producing greater than, I should say, 1-inch hail near Rome in south central Ohio. Now that hail core looks to have fallen off quite a bit. You can see it's more of a stretched out area of 65 to 70 dBz. There is still some dBz in here that may be a little bit greater than 70, but it looks like just a stretched out core of 65 to 70 dBz in this area. So probably dropping closer to that 1 inch in diameter hail mark now that the National Weather Service has it warned for. Just a lot of hail. That's the issue today. Let's go back to here. So if you're just tuning in, this is our risk area for today. We have a very large level 1 risk out of 5 for severe weather. That stretches all the way from barely northwest of Virginia Beach, all the way back down to just barely northeast of Nashville and Clarksville, Tennessee, back up into south central Indiana, back up into Columbus, Ohio. So very large level 1 out of 5 risk for really just isolated small hail, isolated wind gusts up to about 40, 50 miles per hour there being possible. Not much of a threat if you're in that dark green. If you're in the yellow, that's where it's different, especially as you get into the this portion of your slight risk for severe weather from about southeastern Ohio, eastern Kentucky, all the way back out here towards Washington, D.C. and Richmond. That's your main level 2 out of 5 for severe weather, slight risk for severe weather. That includes the potential for a tornado or two, some large hail, potentially up to about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inch in diameter being possible. And then also damaging winds of about 60, 65 miles per hour. Now, in that enhanced risk for severe weather, and even a little bit around that enhanced, this area in here, that's where my confidence is the greatest in the overall risk for severe weather. That's where we could see a hailstone potentially as large as 2 to 2.5 inch in diameter, some damaging winds as strong as 70 to 75, and a few spin-up tornadoes still possible there as well. Again, that strong tornado threat, and especially that long track tornado threat that was shown on the HRRR yesterday, that looks to be barely even present today, barely even present with much of a tornado threat. And that's why the SPC has chosen a severe thunderstorm watch, which is this little yellow outline you see here. That severe watch is primarily for 70 mile an hour winds and 2 inch hail, as well as a brief spin up tornado or two. And then, of course, like I said, that enhanced risk, that's your level 3 out of 5 for severe weather there. If we go back to the HRRR here, pull it out a bit, you can see our peak tornado threat and just our overall peak for severe weather should be from about 5:36 p.m. Eastern all the way until about 9, maybe 10 p.m. So from about 5 to 9 p.m. today, that's our highest threat for severe weather. And that will be really focused over southeastern Ohio, far northeastern Kentucky, into much of West Virginia, and then extreme northwest normal Virginia. We got West Virginia and Virginia in this threat. So western Virginia and most of West Virginia is in the risk for severe weather. That primary threat there. So from like Harrisonburg down towards Roanoke, back up all the way towards Huntington, Kentucky / Ohio, towards Parkersburg. I think Parkersburg, West Virginia, right? Yeah, that's West Virginia. Going to be pretty confusing there. Like I said, we have West Virginia is in the greatest risk, but we also have a part of Western Virginia that is also in the greatest risk for severe weather today. Close that out. There we go. Let's do a small little breakdown of our threat for severe weather. There's not really a big need to deep dive into our overall threat for severe weather, but we'll at least just look at some mesoanalysis. So there's your main low pressure 992 millibar. Rotating, well, exactly how low pressures rotate. Can't really spot any short waves on this particular map. You can definitely see there's a front back out like right in here. You can definitely spot a front right in there. So there's definitely a front generally in that area, which you can see that aligns nearly perfectly with your instability. And not much instability out there. Definitely enough for some severe storms, for sure. 1,000, 1,500. Definitely enough for some isolated severe storms. We look for, at minimum, 500, which is this red line right here that I'm highlighting. That is your 500 instability line. And so you can see that encompasses our entire risk area from central Ohio all the way down to southwestern Kentucky, all the way into north central northwestern Virginia, back down into western North Carolina. Now, if you do live in western North Carolina, you're not going to see much severe weather or any weather for that matter. Much of us in this portion of the risk region, we're just going to see some light to moderate rain into tomorrow morning. Not really going to see a very notable risk for severe weather. Looks like the storms are just simply going to miss that region. Surface observations, you can see definitely a lack in moisture, for sure, a lack in moisture. The primary ones you want to look at here is definitely these. So if we just look at some of these here, you could see we are at 80 and 52, 83, and I believe that's 51. Just wanted to make sure that was 51, not 61. Then you got 80, like 85 or so over 57, 75 over 59. So you can see you do get some better moisture back out in this area, closer to where that front is. However, those temperatures are still pretty dang high up there into your upper 70s, lower 80s. So, not really a very notable threat for tornadoes in terms of just looking at your temperatures and dew points. So there's a closer look at all of them. That way you don't have to squint your eyes like I was doing. There's your instability. Like I said, at minimum 500 instability you need for severe weather. And we have that. The main pocket of instability is right in here. That's 1,000 plus instability right there. And then also back up in here. Looking at our lower level jet, that's just not present today. We just don't have a lower level jet, which is another issue. Now, as we go into the evening hours and closer towards 6 o'clock, that lower level jet will begin to increase just a bit. And then as we go towards 8 o'clock, that lower level jet will most likely become closer to 30 to 35 knots, allowing for a little bit heightened of a tornado threat, but still not a very notable threat for tornadoes there. Wind shear, look at helicity there. Just no helicity in place, like, at all. So let's get a sounding in front of our hailer right now. That's dropping around 1 inch in diameter hail there, southeastern Ohio. Not a terrible hodograph. You could definitely see some curvature, very marginal curvature there, but not a terrible hodograph. That's just really a brief, very low wind spin up tornado threat on that hodograph there. Yeah, you can see definitely at least a little bit of wind shear in place. A little bit of wind shear in place with this storm. Looking at your skew-T, though, you can definitely tell there is a big issue there. Not going to have much of a tornado threat with dew points being that low and your temperatures being so far to the east. And look at that. I do want you to note that. That's why this is dropping some decently sized hail. You can see the change in temperatures with height, especially towards the surface. The lower level, about the 750 millibar, all the way down to the surface towards 1,000 millibars. You definitely have some good changing with height in that temperature change with height. Cooling with height is what I meant to say. Cooling with height in that area. Not a lot of veering either, so just not a tornado type of sounding at all. Maybe worst case scenario, you could see a brief spin up out of this, but even that is going to be very difficult to achieve with such terrible veering and such higher end temperatures with lower end dew points. And you can see, yeah, those lower level kilometer lapse rates, 7.7. That is definitely sufficient for large hail. Definitely sufficient for large hail. Just want to do a breakdown a bit of our severe threat there. Let's go back to this radar site. Still about 1 inch in diameter hail here. Not really anything too over the top. This looks ridiculous now, but that is because it's getting pretty far from our radar. I don't like to look at things that's more than about 50 miles away from our radar site, and that is your 50-mile radius of your radar site. So anything outside of that blue circle, I start to get a little iffy with data-wise, and then once you get to 75 miles, which is right here, that's where your data becomes very inaccurate, especially velocity-wise. So don't really want to be listening to that from the Wilmington radar site. So we're going to switch to the Charleston radar site, and you can see that's your 50-mile little circle there, and you can see it's almost within that 50-mile circle. So this is going to become a little bit, especially as it gets closer, we're going to start getting a lot more accurate data for this storm from the Charleston, West Virginia radar site. And the Charleston one also picks up on that good hail core. What DBZ is that? We may have, that is tied 76. That is tied for the greatest DBZ. Now, if we use this radar site, I imagine we probably will get more than 76 DBZ if it wants to load. Actually, no, that's like the same 76 DBZ there as well. So that's tied with our highest DBZ of the day. Yeah, definitely some very large hail for sure with that storm. You can see those very high echo tops too, almost up to 45,000 feet up into the atmosphere there. VIL is, of course, maxed out. So definitely a very notable hail core there, especially just to the south of Lawrence. So just make sure you're indoors, away from doors and windows if you're in that severe storm too. That's going to be, looks like that's going to stay barely to the north of Ashland, Kentucky. It looks like this is going to stay north of you guys. Yeah, it should stay to your north if you're in Ashland, Kentucky. So this is going to start heading towards like Crown City, Huntington, that area in northwestern West Virginia and southeastern Ohio. Little signs of initiation potentially beginning out here in Kentucky. Not any very notable signs. Let's see. Yeah, you can see not really a lot of convection there. There's just a little bit of precipitation being detected by radar that's starting to pop up generally in somewhere in this area. May be able to see it from echo tops. Not really. Yeah, so just a little bit of signs of initiation. Doesn't look like those storms are really going just yet. As we get closer to 5 o'clock and 5:30, that's when those storms in kind of northeastern Kentucky should really get going here. Especially as we get towards 5:30. So we'll need to keep an eye on that. Those storms should initiate. Let's see. They should initiate somewhere in this area. Very close to Lexington. So we'll watch for signs of initiation there. We're still at just 2 severe storms. Well, okay, technically 3, once again. Still technically 3 because we've got 2 on one cell here, which both of those are actually about to expire. We should see a new severe thunderstorm warning, like, right now. Unless they are going to let this go sub-severe. we should see a new severe warning for somewhere in this area here. Somewhere out here. Not sure how far south they'll put it or how far north, but definitely somewhere in this area. It'd be pretty strange if they don't issue a severe downstream for that. Still a severe warning out here in West Union, South Central Ohio, so make sure you are indoors, away from doors and windows. 5 more minutes of that severe. Definitely could end up seeing a extension to that one as well. Let's see if we're at 70. Oh, yep, there you go. There's your highest DBZ of the day, 77. We beat it by 1. We were at 76, now we're at 77. So this is our highest DBZ pixel of the day, which, you know, the difference between 76 and 77 is like nothing. It really is like pretty much no difference. You know, that's not really going to affect the actual hailstone. Now, there's a big difference between, say, like 60 dBz and 70 dBz. That's a big jump, but just one singular dBz jump, that's not going to make a big difference. Now, if it keeps on going up by, like, say, 1 dBz per scan, then eventually it's going to be a big issue. So this is probably dropping a little bit greater than 1 inch in diameter hail. It's going to start going towards Kitts Hill, Willow Wood, Ade, in far southeastern Ohio. Yeah, there's that extension of your severe for Portsmouth in south central Ohio. Make sure you guys are indoors, away from doors and windows there. We should see an extension for this storm too at any moment. We'll see if that extension comes through or not. The year with probably the most high risks so far in the last 5 years, I'd say, is probably 2021, but I don't know for sure. Let's see. I have no idea. I'm gonna go look it up. Let's go all the way down to 2025. Okay, so 2025 has already had 2 high risks. Last year, of course, we had the one in Oklahoma, which underperformed. 2023, of course, we had March 31st. 2021 had 2 high risks as well, so we're actually tied with 2021. So if we get one more high risk, if we get 1 high risk this year, 1 more, I'm not sure when the last time we had 3 high risks in just 1 year. There you go. That would actually be 2017. 2017 was the last time we had 3 or more high risks in 1 year. There you go. So if we could get 1 more high risk this year, it will be the most high risks in 1 consecutive year since 2017. Now, if you go way back, like the further back you go, the more common high risks are going to be. Now, ever since 2014, ever since about 2014, that's when high risks have gotten a lot more uncommon. For instance, 1999 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high risks. 1998, obviously 1 year prior, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 high risks. So high risks were extremely common going before the 2000s. I mean, even 2001 had like 4 or 5 high risks there. So the better our technology gets, the less common those high risks will be. And like I said, once around 2014, that's when high risks became quite rare. You would only start seeing 1 to 2 a year. Oh, there's your extension. 1-inch hail. I'm a little surprised that this is warned for 1-inch hail. Maybe they're seeing something on radar that's like not as impressive or something. But typically that type of hail core doesn't drop 1-inch hail. I mean, in some instances, that type of hail core could be dropping upwards of like 3. But I don't think so. In this case, I think it's dropping between 1 to 1.5 inch in diameter hail. We'll keep watching that. But like I said, I'm just a little bit surprised they warned that for 1-inch hail. That's that's considered a low end severe. I'm a little surprised by that. That still has caught me off guard there. Because that's a really notable hail core. Which I even said 1.5-inch hail. Like I said, 75, 76 dBz. Normally, I mean, you could be looking at like baseball hail with that. I've seen plenty of severes that have baseball sized hail with that type of dBz. How high up are we looking? It's, yeah, just like 3,000 feet up. That's not even high up at all. That hail spike is just insane. You could see all the hail in here that's falling. All of that is hail. Especially on this side right here. Definitely a lot of hail. And then you just have this wild hail spike. A wild hail spike that goes all the way up into Portsmouth there. Now that, by the way, this does not mean any hail's falling back up here. That is a hail spike, meaning that the radar is scanning multiple different hailstones inside of a storm. And those hailstones are very large, so it's practically duplicating them. And then it's, in correlation coefficient, it's, copying them all the way out. Outside of the storm, wherever that radar beam is scanning, which in this sense, our radar beam is out here in Charleston, West Virginia, so it's scanning through that hail core and it's duplicating them all the way back out this way. Back up into South Shore. Which hail spikes are, they're pretty common. You see them quite often, especially in bigger hail cores, obviously. We see multiple hail spikes a year, plenty of them. But typically a hail spike that's this notable paired with a hail core that's this high end on DBZ, like I said, 77 at one point. Pretty weird that they only have it warned for 1-inch in diameter hail. I would like to know why. Not trying to get on the National Weather Service by any means, but trying to figure out what's the reasoning behind not having it as a higher end severe. Because I haven't really done much research on hail, to be honest with you. Obviously, my channel name is, TRG Tornado, so I know way more about tornadoes than I do with hail. I haven't put a lot of research into it. So it'd be nice to learn, exactly what do you look for once you start getting into these higher end storms hail-wise. Like, I know you're looking for ZDR to at least be present. I know you're looking for CC to obviously show hail. I don't know about spectrum width. I don't think spectrum width would be that useful for hail because spectrum width is for wind. VIL I know is going to be useful. And actually, on the newest scan of this radar has 127 kg meters squared. So that's kind of crazy, considering Radar Omega had 80. This has 127. Let's see here. What do they go by for this? Okay. Let's see about anything else. So this is radar estimates here that there's 3.23 inch hail potentially happening with this storm. Now that is only a radar estimate, which means you don't want to take that, to heart. Especially with hail. Radar typically overdoes hail from what I've seen. This overdoes hail. So if we put that on, yeah, you can see that says 3.75 inch hail. That's typically overdone. I used to use this a long time ago, but now I don't because it seems inaccurate. It seems quite inaccurate, so I don't use it. So that is not Nazario. You are banned. Congratulations. If that is somehow Nazario, then I'll get a text message shortly. I'll be in trouble. But I highly doubt that's Nazario. Nope, it's not. I just had to double check. I don't want to be in trouble. Let's see here. 77 dBz again on this storm, which that's just crazy. I'm going to turn off those hail indicators. I don't like them. They always overdo it, so I don't keep them on. But radar indicates like literally 3-inch hail with this storm. We did actually just get a Tor Possible Severe. So that's for those little velocities I was talking about earlier that I really don't see much with. This is far from the radar site, so I'm not very confident in those velocities being accurate. But they did go ahead and put a Tor Possible tag on this storm here for Lucasville and southeastern Ohio. If you are in that severe, make sure you're away from doors and windows, but also make sure you're close to your safe spot, just in case this does somehow end up rotating a little bit more notably to the point where they have to end up issuing a warning. Right now, I do not see that happening. The area of rotation is barely even present. But just in case, they did go ahead and put that Tor Possible tag on it. And, when there's a little area of rotation that you're keeping an eye on, that doesn't hurt to just put a Tor Possible tag on that. What that means to the public is that this storm is potentially capable of producing a tornado, and the National Weather Service is watching it closely to see if it upticks in rotation. Which, again, if you're in a Tor Possible Severe, long story short, just make sure you're close to your safe spot, and that's your main precaution. Just make sure you're close to your safe spot. It's just an extra precaution that the National Weather Service uses to make sure you're even more weather aware once those warnings are issued, to give you more of a description of what the severe storm may be capable of producing. So in this case, it's capable of producing 1-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that Tor Possible tag means that they're watching an area of rotation that may be able to strengthen in the future. And if it does strengthen to a point where they need to, a tornado warning could end up being issued. Which is why I said stay close to your safe spot. So again, Rosemount, Portsmouth there, southeastern Ohio, away from doors and windows, close to your safe spot. That is a Tor possible severe. Um, I mean, I'm still surprised they have this at like just 1 inch hail, like literally. I would at least think they'd have like 1.5 inch hail on that because radar is picking up crazy values here. I just don't see a way how this isn't dropping greater than 1 inch hail. Where is... Okay, there you go. Like I said, though, I'm not a big professional with reading radar in terms of the hail side of things. I don't know if there's like a product that really, really helps with reading hail. I know VIL, reflectivity, correlation coefficient, those are all useful. But there may be like a little sneaky product that I don't know of. This dude. Help chat, Lucky's bugging me. Help me out. Another reason why they could have put a Tor possible tag on this is just simply because of the structure of the storm. You can see how it looks like this area is trying to like hook out. But there's like no velocities there, which is why I'm not very concerned about it. Let's see what this dude Lucky has to say. What you want? What do you need? What is so important you can't wait? Mm-hmm. Apparently it's only 1 inch hail according to the National Weather Service. I don't have either one of those, buddy. No, I don't. Don't. I'm not lying. No, I'm not. No, I don't. What do you mean, bro? I have an account, but I don't have it anymore. That's been around since like 2015. It never left. It probably did. That wouldn't surprise me. Okay. Okay. No, don't. If it was closer, I'd definitely do it, but I don't want to. I want to go all the way down there just for that. They should be doing it today when it's like 85 outside. It's stinking hot. I'm, I'm burning up in my own house sitting here, and it's like 72 in here, but the heat still makes it into the house. Dumb old metal roof. Oh, we're going back to beautiful weather tomorrow again? Dang. Oh, it is. It's gonna be nice tomorrow. Man. And then it's gonna get freezing. Man, pick a season. Like, how are we 80 today? And then Wednesday morning, it's going to be 38? Is that? Yeah, 38, 39. Like, geez, pick a season already. All right, say hi, bye.
What's up, chat? Bye, chat.
All right, see you later, brother. This dude, man. I'm not too sure why it's not worn for a little bit larger. Like, I get why they don't have it worn for like 3-inch hail, but at least a little bit larger than 1-inch in diameter hail, because these two storms, there's no way that this storm is producing the same hail as this storm. Like I said, unless I'm missing some product here on radar that they use. I don't know what that means. Does that mean giant hail? I guess that's what it means. Giant hail, large hail, hail, heavy rain, rain. What does that mean? Yep, there's some random radar product from Radar Omega there that I haven't used before. Go back here. Okay, let's go back to GR2. Yeah, so I mean, there's just nobody out here in this, like in the main hail core to report hail. There's a few people, but there's no chasers. Pretty sure there's no chasers out here who are chasing this storm that's going to be able to report how large of hail is falling. Like I said, we don't have a lot of chasers today. Not a lot of chasers. I only know 2. Well, I gotta be honest with you. I'm not gonna stay here much longer. Just being straightforward. I'm not gonna stay here too much longer. I really just wanted to come on here to let you guys know about this threat for severe weather and cover it for a bit. But we're just maintaining 2 severes. I do think there's a chance we come back tonight to cover even more. But 2 severe storms, both warned for only 1-inch hail. Well, they did update this to a 4 possible severe. I don't want to use up all my energy on these likely lower end days and then not have enough energy to cover higher end days as we get closer to those higher end days. So the main thing is that you guys are just weather aware. That's the important thing. Like I said, I may come back on here tonight when things possibly ramp up towards like 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. But yeah, I mean, just some big time hailstorms, right? Not something that's too over the top. Now, if it does get over the top where we start seeing like 2.75, maybe 3-inch in diameter hail warnings come out, maybe then I'll start up another stream, but we'll just see. I'll just keep an eye on it. But I mean, there's only 2 severes right now. These storms have fired pretty early, and that might actually kill the threat, to be honest with you, because your main front is still off to the west. So these are kinda, in a way, partially prefrontals, especially this one. So this actually might decrease your overall threat a bit, which may be another reason why they didn't end up putting a 10 sig Tor out. I think that was a great call, by the way. Again, see, that's another reason why you should wait, why the SBC often does wait till day 1 for those big risk upgrades, like a 10 sig Tor from, a 5% to a 10 sig Tor. That's a double big jump there, because just small little things like a front being a bit too fast, or dew points being a few degrees too low, or temperatures being a bit too high, just those few small things can create a completely different hazard setup where we go from potentially strong tornadoes to literally large hail and a near low wind tornado threat there. I don't think we're going to see much tornadoes or many areas of rotation out of this, to be honest with you. Random guy, everything I went over yesterday is still valid today. We didn't have much big changes in the model runs. Everything still looks relatively the same. Something that is to note is it looks like Saturday's threats trough is too slow at the moment. So the primary right exit region of Saturday's trough doesn't arrive until 1 a.m. By the time you get to 1 a.m., your instability has already waned off to only about 200 to 500 joules per kilogram. And that's just too little. So potentially a poor timed trough ejection on Saturday, which would allow for a significantly lower threat for all hazards compared to if that trough was 4 hours quicker. I'm not very interested in these upcoming severe threats. I do think we could have a potential tornado outbreak on one of these setups, but which one I'm unsure about. Thursday's threat still looks capped. Friday's threat looks very meh. Friday just looks like a big windbag. It's all going to come down to that triple point up in Wisconsin and Michigan if we actually get a good tornado threat on Friday. Saturday, poorly timed trough ejection, so we may not even get much of a notable tornado threat there unless some uptrends do continue, which it's definitely possible. We see more uptrends with that. And then Tuesday, just that's the remnants of Saturday's threat. Or rather, Sunday, my bad. Why did I say Tuesday? I'm sorry, a little slow here on the model run. So, yeah, Saturday's threat, like I said, could be a little bit of a better threat if the trough slows down or speeds up. It depends. If it slows down, then Sunday will become your primary threat for severe weather. If it speeds up, then Saturday will be your main threat for severe weather. If it stays the same, the threat will be split down the middle, where you get some severe weather Sunday and some severe threat Saturday, but overall, neither of them would be that significant due to a poorly timed trough. Monday, it looks like the best wind shear is going to be displaced off to the north, and your open warm sector won't be that large, according to the newest model runs. So I'm not too worried just yet about that. And then the threats after that are all very uncertain, as the GFS is very far out. So that model run that we looked at yesterday, the 18Z GFS, that was a model run for the year. Really, that was one of the best, most active model runs that I've ever seen in terms of severe weather. The run right after that is the 0Z GFS. It took off most of those troughs in late April. So, a lot of uncertainty. A lot of threats that we're just going to have to keep an eye on. See which way things end up trending. But for like a very notable widespread tornado outbreak or significant severe threat, I don't see that in the future at the moment. Definitely going to watch, of course, Thursday and Friday. Friday, again, is all going to come down to that triple point over Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Northwest Ohio. And then Thursday, day before that, is going to come down to if the cap erodes. So like I said, it's possible I come back on here tonight. But I'm just going to keep an eye on the weather, and if need be, I'll hop back on here. But I'm not going to do like a crazy 5-6 hour live stream for these storms when they're not really doing that much. This is the biggest concern right now, which is for large hail, and it looks like that is really fallen apart over the last 20 minutes or so. You can see that hail spike is barely even present anymore. It used to be extremely notable actually that was 19 minutes ago. And then now it's just completely gone. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy this brief coverage, make sure you hit that like button, share the channel, stream with family, friends, social media. Consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all if you are new. It's greatly appreciated. I'll probably end up being back here tomorrow. Tomorrow's kind of 50-50. If we get a lot of new information, I'll hop back on here. and talk about the upcoming threat for severe weather. If not, I will see you guys Wednesday. Wednesday we will definitely be live Wednesday for sure. 100% going to be live Wednesday. Whether or not it stays general thunderstorm risk or goes enhanced risk, we'll definitely be live on Wednesday, at least to update you on the threat for severe weather. Tomorrow is iffy, just depending on how much new information we get, as well as just overall, just to see what threat we may end up seeing tomorrow. On our longer range model runs. Depends how much changes. That's what I'm trying to say. Depends how much changes. If there's notable changes tomorrow, I may start up a stream. Which if I do, it will be 6 o'clock Eastern. So 6 o'clock Eastern for tomorrow is a possible live stream. If not, then I will definitely see you guys around 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Can guarantee that 6 p.m. Eastern Wednesday we will be live to update you guys on the threat for severe weather. And, yeah, like I said, it's still also possible I live stream tonight. Just depends on what this threat does. I'll just keep an eye on it. But overall, long story short, guaranteed live stream Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I can guarantee it. Outside of that, just make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you know if I go live again tonight or if I'm live tomorrow. I apologize for the pretty short stream. I didn't really expect to be ending this soon, but it doesn't look like things are going to really start popping off until probably 8 o'clock. It looks like those were just some 2 storms that popped up out of nowhere. So, like I said, if need be, I'll come back on here towards 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern time if I need to. And we'll just see how that goes. I'll just keep an eye on it. Thank you, Mods for Mod Chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Which day do you think is the biggest threat for severe weather? Right now, Phoenix, I'm watching Thursday. Thursday, all it takes is for that cap to be a little bit weaker or a little bit less cloud cover. It could erode, and Thursday could be a big day for tornadoes. So right now, I think Thursday in a good chunk of Iowa, that's going to be the day to watch for the biggest threat for tornadoes, at least in my opinion, in the short term. But that's going to be it. I'll see you guys definitely on Wednesday, possibly tonight, possibly tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Once again, thank you for watching. Stay safe, watch severe weather. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. 2-inch hail report out of that storm in western West Virginia. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Goodbye.